welcome to this special edition of Franklin Covey's On Leadership series. My name is Scott Miller, and I'm privileged to serve as the host of what is now Franklin Covey's largest podcast each week. And as I was talking with our board of directors, our chairman, our president, and the executive team in the last few weeks, we've thought a lot about what can we do to help our employees worldwide, our valued customers, and for that matter, anybody who's looking to Franklin Covey for some wisdom, some guidance, some calm in this world of giant whirlwind. We thought what we could do is interview 4 of our key thought leaders on where they thought these principles that leaders can bring to bear in this time of, literally changing by the hour uncertainty. So I'm delighted to invite today, for the next 40 minutes or so, 4 of our key thought leaders. First, we'll talk with Stephen M R Covey, who is the author of the seminal book, The Speed of Trust. This book has sold over 2 million copies, and by most standards, Stephen M R Covey serves as, if not the one of the most credible experts on organizational trust and individuals who want to become more trustworthy. What do they do as well? We'll follow the discussion with Stephen M R by a conversation with Chris McChesney, the expert on the 4 disciplines of execution. We'll then talk with Corey Kogan, the lead author of the 5 Choices to Extraordinary Productivity, followed by a live in-person interview in the studio with our 2-time Wall Street Journal best-selling author Todd Davis, who also serves as a member of our executive team and Franklin Covey's Chief People Officer, on what we're doing to help all of our employees worldwide thrive in this very uncertain time. So first, let's welcome Stephen M R Covey to the conversation.
Hey,
Stephen.
Scott, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, sir. Thank you for taking time out in a very busy day today for you. I know you were in the midst of multiple conversations, webcast, board meetings, and interviews. I want to thank you for your time. Stephen, I'm going to guess most of our listeners and viewers know who you are. They probably read your book. Talk a little bit about, from your vast experience in the last 30 years in our firm, speaking around the world, what are the biggest issues leaders are facing right now in this turbulent time? And what are some of the key pieces of advice you might give them to be mindful of?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I liked your preamble that everything is changing around us and it's real time. It's happening by the hour. So it's all, we need to focus during a time like that on principles because specific rules may be obsolete the next hour. So here's my experience as I've worked with leaders and organizations, but also as I've looked at situations where there is huge disruption and huge change and even crisis like we're going through right now. And there's many important principles and things like the need for clear communication and ongoing communication, the need for clarity. And clearly these are important principles. But when all is said and done, during a time of disruption and a time of crisis, the most important thing for a leader and for an organization is credibility and trust. Credibility in the sense that you are credible as a leader, your firm is credible as a firm, your character, your competence, and trust in that is your currency. People trust what you say. Think about it. If you might focus on communication, which is critical during a time of disruption and crisis. But if you're not credible, when you communicate, people don't believe what you're saying. If they're questioning your credibility. If you're not trusted, they may not care, take stock in your advice because they don't trust it. So the greatest currency during a time of crisis and disruption like we're facing today is the credibility and the trust of your leaders and of your company. That's the most important thing to focus on during a time like this.
Stephen, we hear this phrase of how you can't over-communicate. But the fact of the matter is you can probably over-communicate if you're not speaking with credibility and a clear voice. What advice would you give to leaders on how to make sure that they're communicating properly and speaking with credibility and trust?
Yeah. And the idea of you can't over-communicate, there's merit to that. But you are exactly right. If you're not trusted, because you're not credible, And the communication could actually backfire. You could be digging a hole that gets deeper because they don't trust what you're saying. So starting with yourself and starting with your leaders and focusing on your credibility first. See, even credibility and trust are two sides of the same coin, but it starts with credibility. And that's a function of both your character and your competence. And if I go deeper, in Speed of Trust, as you know, I talk about the 4 cores of credibility. So from your character, first is your integrity, your honesty, your truthfulness. That's vital during a time of crisis. Second is your intent, and that is your motive and your agenda. And the key principle here is caring. Do you care about the people that you're serving, that you're leading? Do they know that you care about them? If they know and believe that you care, they'll tend to trust you. If they don't, they won't trust you as much. You'll be less credible to them. So caring is so vital. So integrity and intent flow from your character. That's vital to be credible in a time of change. But your competence side is vital too. And that's your capabilities and your results. So your capabilities, are you current? Are you relevant? And in a time like today, we need to borrow strength from experts in public health and medical situations that know this new dynamic, this new world, because most leaders don't. And we can't act like we know something that we don't know. We can't be an expert in an area we're not an expert in. We need to bring strength into that so that we're capable and that we're relevant. And then our results is our performance, our track record. Does that give people confidence that we deliver, that we do what we say we're going to do? So we got to start with ourselves, look in the mirror, be credible as a leader, and we need to model it. And for example, I need to be open to receiving bad information as a leader and model that, because if I don't receive bad information well the first time, I probably won't get it the second time. If I don't model it to others, then others won't do it with other people as well. So I've got to lead from the inside out, model credibility through my character, through my competence. That's the first starting point, is personal as well as organizational credibility.
Stephen, it's a profound piece of wisdom around making sure that you set the conditions as a leader to receive bad feedback, because once you make it safe for others to do that, then you'll be able to operate on real-time information. It will only help your own clarity and your own credibility. Beyond the 4 cores of credibility in the book and in your keynote speeches and in your work sessions, most of us know you illustrate these 13 behaviors that are common to high trust leaders. Anybody who's been to one of your keynote speeches or the work sessions knows we get these cards that are super actionable. On the front is the actual high trust behavior, the opposite, and the counterfeit. We don't have time today to review all 13 of these high trust behaviors. Are there 2 or 3 you might highlight for the audience today to reground everybody who's in a leadership role, whether it's in the office or with your family or in a club or a community or some type of role you play? Maybe pick 2 or 3 and reground us in these.
Great. So during a time of crisis and disruption like we're facing today, all of the 13 behaviors are critical, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to just run through my cards myself. I pick 3. Here's the 3 I pick. I pick confront reality. That's behavior number 8. Create transparency, behavior number 3, and talk straight, behavior number 1. And let me describe all 3. And let me just say this kind of overall. The tendency during times of disruption and crisis is that we move back towards counterfeit behavior, which is, an alternative version of it that's not accurate. So instead of talking straight, it's the spin and the sugarcoating. Instead of taking responsibility, practicing accountability, it's the blaming, the finger pointing. The reason I highlighted these 3, confront reality, create transparency, talk straight, is that they are exceptionally vital to build trust during change and transition. Take confront reality. That means we take things head on, even the tough things. We get the bad news. We can't hide it. If we try to hide the bad news during times like now, we will lose the credibility and the trust with our audiences, with our constituents, with our people. They won't trust us. They're hearing about it. We got to be upfront, straightforward, take things head on, confront the reality, including the bad news, so that we get more bad news in the future, because we can't solve a problem that we don't understand.
Right.
And right now it's a difficult problem, so we need the bad news. We got to confront the reality so we can solve it. Another one, create transparency. We're open, there's light, like, the expression, light is the greatest disinfectant. And I love what Amy Edmondson, the Harvard Business School professor, said is that transparency is job one during a crisis. We got to be open and transparent and authentic and real. We can't be hiding things and covering them up, because then people won't trust us. They'll wonder, what else are we hiding? And the best way to do this is to be upfront about it. When we know things, we tell them what we know. When we don't know things, we tell them what we don't know and what we're doing to try to learn about those things and how we're trying to respond to it. We model the transparency. It is so vital to building the trust. And then finally, talk straight. We've got to tell the truth. We've got to call things for what they are. And I especially want to contrast that to, say, the counterfeit here, which is where you might, spin, or you might sugarcoat, and you might feel like maybe you're going to be less alarming and frightening to people if you sugarcoat it. But I'll tell you what, if you start to do that, then people, every time you speak, every time you communicate, they'll be wondering, are they sugarcoating again? Is this real? Can I trust this? So get a reputation, especially now that you're going to confront reality. You're going to take things head on, even the bad news, and especially the bad news. You're going to be open and transparent and authentic and real with it so that you keep getting it. And you're going to speak truthfully about it and talk straight. And that way people they might come to this conclusion. They might not always like what they hear from you, but they've learned that they can trust what they hear from you. And that's what we need now. That is our currency. And with that, our ability to communicate will go up. Our ability to connect with our people, to bring and instill confidence in them, will go up. And so, this is not easy. And you can't go to either extreme. You can have the counterfeit in either extreme. You're not trying to become alarmist and confront reality and paint just the absolute worst case scenario and just panic people, because there's an emotional contagion that can be also extraordinarily distressing and can perpetuate itself. And you don't want to, go to that extreme, but you also don't want to go to the extreme of just saying everything's fine, there's no problems, nothing's going to change, when everyone knows, look, everything is changing right now. We've got to find that sweet spot on all of these behaviors, but you get that reputation. You communicate in these ways, you will build trust. So I would highlight those three: confront reality, create transparency, talk straight, do the actual behavior, beware, avoid the counterfeits, which so often trip us up during a time of change. And that's how we've got to lead out with this. And you got to model it as a leader, and then you make it safe for others to do. And then we can communicate and talk and create and innovate and collaborate to come up with solutions to the challenges that are facing us. We can be agile and adaptive and responsive and creative, but we can't do that if we don't trust each other. And we've got to, behave in ways that build and earn and keep that trust, especially during times like today.
Stephen, superb advice. I'm going to guess a lot of people are thinking, well, they wish that their CEO or the foundation president or their elected officials would be doing all of that. And we hope that they do. But your point is, it starts with you. You want to model what you want to have to see in other people and have the same behaviors in your own team. Stephen, thank you for your time today. Very generous. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you back in the future. Thank you, sir.
Great. Let me give you one more, Scott, that is so vital today. And that would be this: to extend trust. You got to tell your people and actually demonstrate this, that you trust them. Remote work is about trusting your people. You want to do it with clear expectations and accountability, but there's many organizations that don't allow remote working. Well, that's about to change. And it really is about trust. And you're going to show and demonstrate that you trust your people. The strength of that is they tend to trust you back. When you trust them, they tend to trust you. You don't trust them, they tend to not trust you. So extend trust to your people. Remote work is a good example. If someone's sick and they say they're sick, believe them, trust them, don't require anything more. And it's so vital right now. And when you demonstrate that trust in your people, when you extend it to them, they will give it back to you. And that will build this trust. Distrust is contagious. but so is trust. And we need more trust right now to be able to navigate this environment. So that is vital for leaders, is to model this, start with yourself, your credibility, lead out with those key 3 behaviors of confronting reality, clarifying confronting reality and creating transparency and talking straight. And then, and I'm going to say especially, trust your people, trust your teams, and it will come back to you. And we need that during a time like today.
Stephen, great send-off. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it, sir.